Hello, Congressman. Thank you for coming to visit us. My question relates to clean energy. I know you alluded to that earlier. I was thinking in California, we have to pump a whole bunch of water around just to make our water system work. What can the federal government do? I think that a lot of those sites would be very great for wind power. They're already being used by the public. It takes a lot of power to pump that up, so why not use renewable energy to pump that water up? Same way with a lot of the water tanks that we have on top of the hills here to store the water up to go down to the houses. Why not put a few wind power stations up there to get that up there in a clean way, and then that creates less of a strain on our power system?
Yeah, see, those are the kinds of ideas that I think we're going to hear circulating quite a bit. We're heading in that direction. What we have to do, because still wind power is relatively expensive to invest in relative to its return. Because while the technology is evolving, it's still tough. You still have to, for example, you may build a wind farm where we have pipes to bring in the water, but we don't have the electrical infrastructure in place to bring the energy created by those windmills over to the grid. And so you have to build the grid. It's not that we can't do it or won't do it. It's just that recognize it takes a lot of money, and we need to we need to have investors say it's a good investment, unless all of you are willing to have it done simply by the taxpayers through the government. And I don't think that'll be the case, nor do I think it would be wise to do it simply through the government. I think you want to have those investors who are knowledgeable in energy feel that there is a value in doing this. And I think that's where we're going. That's why some of us have said, instead of giving tax credits to oil companies to give them an incentive to look for oil, they just had $120 billion worth of profits last year. Let's give tax incentives to those who are willing to do projects of wind farms and so forth, and maybe look at your idea that you just mentioned so we can get that going. That's why in the next few years you're going to see plug-in hybrid vehicles. Someone said, well, hybrids are good, but why not have a hybrid instead of with a motor, have it with with a battery, and so long as the battery and the combination gives you enough energy, every night you'll be plugging in for a lot less than you pay at the pump. You'll be able to have a car that's ready to go the next morning. Please.
Thank you for coming. I have a question regarding water. We don't seem to save our rainwater. It goes right out into the ocean. When we walk over at the Rose Bowl, there's all this water, clear, beautiful water, just washing away. It seems to me it would be saving money to keep this water. Also, with the environment the way it is, they have floods, water up past their cars, up past their houses. Now, we're really a wonderful country. Why is it we've got pipes all underground running oil and everything else? Why can't we fix it so there's pipes where they're getting flooded and bring the water out here where we need it?
I just mentioned I came right before this from Hermosa Vista Park. If you go to that park, you'll find out two things from the Mountain Conservancy folks who are there. One, all the rain that falls on that park will percolate through into an underground system. That which doesn't stay and percolate down and washes down will collect in one spot and then be sent down into the cistern that collects, I think, some 20,000 gallons of water, can collect 20,000 gallons of water, and be used to then irrigate the park. Exactly what you're talking about, reusing the water. The LA River, since I got elected, I've been supporting efforts to try to restore some of the river for that very purpose, because right now it's just a concrete canal that drives all the water, the rainwater, down to the ocean. With it, all the pollution and everything else that's on it. There are areas where we can restore it into more of a natural habitat so that it can allow rain that falls to percolate into the ground. And there are areas where we could create systems of aqueducts or systems that could hold water to be used later on. Metropolitan Water District is exploring quite a bit of this because they have reservoirs where they're trying to do exactly that, because water is becoming so expensive. This is what happens. When things become expensive, that's when we start to act. And we're always reacting. Why is it that now people are willing to take public transit, buy hybrids instead of SUVs? Because all of a sudden it hits them and they say, whoa, 459, no, I got to do something different now. It's unfortunate. We react to too many things. There are going to be proposals coming down from Sacramento because of the water shortages, the drought conditions that we're facing, especially in Southern California. There are going to be proposals to resurrect, some of you will recall this, the peripheral canal, which is to do a canal similar to what we have, the California Aqueduct, that will send a whole bunch of Northern California water down to Southern California, which may be good for those who think we need more water, but it's terrible for those that are up north and in those environmental areas, because that water naturally is there for a reason, not down here. And the environmental effects of trying to ship so much water could be devastating, especially to the Sacramento Delta. And you're beginning to see the effects, principally where the ocean meets the river freshwater. And you're seeing more and more the incursion of salt seawater coming in to areas that were before freshwater areas. And the effects are pretty dramatic. More and more we're beginning to see the effects of what people are doing to the environment artificially. And so you're absolutely right. We have to think smart with the water that we have first before we start thinking about getting water from someplace else at a very big expense. I have legislation that I've introduced because of what you just brought up that would provide a tax incentive for local governments to explore prudent ways of using their water.
Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about health care and see if is anything going to come out of Congress or DC to solve the issue of the 47 million people uninsured, and then what's the Democratic plan?
Kurt, we just this past week overrode the president's veto on some Medicare legislation. Those who are 65 and older who receive Medicare. You were on the verge of seeing a lot of doctors say, you know what, it's been great treating you, but I just got a 10% cut in what the federal government's reimbursing me for giving you care. I can't afford that anymore with the cost to me going up. It was great, but I can't afford to take Medicare. And there were those threats by a lot of physicians throughout the country saying that. Whether or not it was totally true that they had reached this point of no return where they would no longer want to take Medicare patients, we weren't sure. We do know the cost of healthcare has gone up, including for physicians who take Medicare patients. So we were trying to figure out a way to resolve that. We finally got there. We came up with a bipartisan bill. The president then just said, I don't like it. I'm going to veto it. And he did. That same day, the House and the Senate voted again by even greater margins, overriding his veto. The legislation avoids the 10% cut to the doctors, and it does a number of things. It increases actually the amount of benefits that lower income seniors can receive through Medicare. Preventative benefits, especially. We also, for example, lifted the income caps that seniors have so they can qualify for certain benefits under Medicare. But that was all we got. And so, Kurt, to your question, we couldn't even get health care for kids. The president vetoed the legislation that bipartisanly we passed in the House and the Senate. Came about 8 votes shy in the House of overriding the president's veto. The Senate actually had the votes the 2/3 votes necessary bipartisanly to override the president's veto. We couldn't get there. We're going to try one more time, I think, this year to try to get the children's health care bill passed. There are, in this country of such wealth, there are approximately 17 million kids in America who either don't have health insurance, access to health care, or have it only because of a program called SCHIP, State Health Insurance Program. There are currently about 6 million kids, 5.5 million kids who receive health care because of the SCHIP program. It's for modest income families, most of them working families. The bill we passed that the president vetoed would have increased the number of kids under SCHIP to about 12 million. We would have still had about 5 million kids uninsured, but we figured got to go somewhere. All this legislation I'm telling you about would have been paid for. This bill would have been paid for through a tobacco tax. The cigarettes, tobacco products would have had to pay more in taxes. So you would have, if you're a smoker, you probably would have paid more for a pack of cigarettes. Okay, so I think next year we will go headlong into this. And I really do think that we're going to go somewhere, because it's outrageous that in in the wealthiest country in the world, 47 million people don't have health insurance.